Governing Board of the Catalina Foothills School District. On behalf of the Governing Board, I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's meeting. We have members of the public who are attending in person, and we may also have members who are watching online live or may tune in later in time. In a few minutes, I'll read the rules of order for public comment at Governing Board meetings. If you wish to make a comment remotely, you should have signed up using the Google form that's available under the YouTube Live description. If you don't see that link, please refresh your YouTube live stream. If you're attending in person, then you need to fill out a purple sheet, request to address the Governing Board. I've received 2 this evening. I would ask everyone to please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll now read the rules of order for public comment at Governing Board meetings. The Governing Board welcomes public comments at our meetings by providing 2 opportunities for the public to address the board. If your topic of interest is not on the agenda, you may address the board during the public comments time slot near the beginning of the meeting, or if the topic is on the agenda, you may speak just prior to the discussion of that agenda topic. If you're joining remotely and wish to make a public comment, you should have already submitted the Google form provided with the YouTube link. I don't believe I have anyone signed up as of this moment. For those attending in person, please hand that purple sheet to our board secretary, Amy Sams. Request to address the Governing Board. The information that is requested on the form is required for our meeting minutes. Speakers will be called upon when it is your turn to address the board. For those attending remotely, you may choose to enable your camera. And as a reminder to remote attendees who do wish to speak, please unmute your microphone when you're called upon. Each speaker has 3 minutes to address the board. The sound of a buzzer indicates the end of your 3 minutes. In the event of a large number of speakers, the board may need to limit that time so that we can conduct the business that is on the agenda. By law, the board cannot discuss, consider, or vote on topics that are not on the agenda. This assures the community that they are aware of the topics that will be discussed this evening. If you wish to discuss a topic through written communication, board members' contact information can be found on the district website. We appreciate the community's attendance and comments at this meeting. Thank you. Agenda item 1.4 is outstanding achievements. And for that item, we turn to our superintendent, Dr. Denise Bartlett.
Thank you. It is my pleasure to highlight the following CFSD students and staff achievements. We have 2 students and a staff member. First of all, Elizabeth Luxbacher, who is a freshman at the Catalina Foothills High School. She's been named the grand prize winner in the Postal History Foundation's postcard design contest.
Oh.
Yeah, celebrating Tucson's 250th birthday, which is amazing. Her artwork featuring a Gila woodpecker among blooming saguaros will represent Tucson in this historic milestone year. And then Ventana Vista 3rd grader, Sayson Maltzby, placed 3rd in the contest. So,
That's amazing.
Isn't it amazing?
Great.
Yeah, to see it. At the Catalina Foothills High School, we have senior Chase Cesaric captured the championship at the Brophy Rodeo Golf Tournament on Saturday, August 23rd. This marks Chase's 2nd consecutive Brophy Rodeo title, a true accomplishment in a highly competitive high school golf tournament. He's recently committed to Division I Utah Tech, but continues to shine for the Falcons on the golf team. Under the guidance of Julie Walters, our coach, congratulations on this outstanding performance. It was well deserved. And finally, we have a staff recognition. Our very own Renee Shane Boyd, 42 years in the district. So this is her 43rd year, I think, teaching. She's a finalist for the Raytheon Leaders in Education Award by Tucson Values Teachers. So it honors pre-K through 12 teachers across Pima County who demonstrate exceptional commitment to educating youth, show leadership within their communities, and foster collaboration among peers. She was selected as one of just 8 finalists from Southern Arizona for her remarkable contributions to student learning and the broader education community. The Raytheon Leaders in Education Award will be presented to Stand Up for Teachers on November 6th at the Tucson Convention Center, and 4 awardees will be selected from the finalists to each receive $2,500, and a matching $2,500 goes to the district. So they'll be honored at the ceremony. So we're very proud of another accomplishment for Ms. Renee Shane Boyd.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing those.
You're welcome.
Our next item is our public comment time. As I indicated, I have 2 purple sheets for people in the audience who wish to speak. I will call on you momentarily. I have no one so far that has indicated they wish to speak online. So with that, the first sheet handed to me was Margot Bezel and Casey, is it Olerking? Fantastic. If you, I understand you 2 want to speak together, which is just fine. Just go ahead and step up to the podium. And you can begin whenever you're ready. Thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon. We wanted to start off by introducing ourselves. Again, my name is Casey Olerking. I'm a senior at Catalina Foothills High School this year, and we are just really excited to have this speech today.
Hello, I'm Margot, and I'm a sophomore at Catalina Foothills High School. We want to begin our speech by saying that we completely understand how amazing our school is compared to other public schools in the wider Tucson or even Arizona region.
We just wanted to read you something off of the district website. So, Catalina Foothills High School, CFHS, is an A-rated public school recognized for its academic excellence, outstanding extracurricular programs, and commitment to student success. Consistently ranked among the top schools in Arizona, CFHS offers a rigorous curriculum including advanced placement and career and technical education pathways, ensuring students are well prepared for college and beyond.
These programs are too fundamental to only be accessible to students who can either afford to pay the fees or know without being told who to reach out to if they can't.
We've heard from students at our school time and time again that they can't afford to pay these fees and they don't know who to reach out to when they can't do that. But when things like art do cost anywhere between $25 and $100 or more, and they don't know what to do to pay those fees, they can't receive those graduation requirements without putting some sort of stress on their family's income. Then, moving away from that topic, our students in Model UN are competing for international recognition at one of the best schools in the country, and yet we still struggle to get fundraisers approved while the band is taking students to Ireland for 2 weeks for a non-academic trip. Keep in mind that Model UN is 1/3 of the price and would be gone for half the amount of time, and we have had to fight for the freedom to go to DC every year rather than every other year. Meanwhile, clubs like Newspaper are being told they can't publish sensitive articles, and my teachers are being told they can't advocate for us to speak up against what we believe is wrong. Allow me to remind you that it is our civic duty as American citizens, and it is one of your values as a school district to follow these values. And yet the administrators at our school are constantly telling us that we are not allowed to do these things.
You have stated in countless reports that students should be engaged and civic-minded and participate in various clubs, Model United Nations. Then why is it that Model UN specifically has been told no or called ridiculous time and time again for trying to give our students an accessible way to learn what it means to be an engaged member of our global community?
As someone who is currently taking government, and more specifically AP government, I see the same groups of students every day come into class who genuinely don't understand the concepts that they should have learned 3 years ago. To help you better understand why clubs like Model UN, classes like speech and debate, and teachers teaching us things that are happening in the world, and then newspaper sharing just more sensitive topics and more political topics that are happening across the world, I requested a list of topics from my teachers that they believe and the Arizona Department of Education believes students should be constantly aware of. These topics include use of information to make individual decisions, how to gather evidence from the world around them, what their rights are, and how to make decisions for themselves without harming others.
That's your 3-minute timer, but if you'll wrap it up, finish your thought, that would be great.
We have a paragraph, is that okay?
Go ahead.
Your students should be compared beyond the state level. Arizona is consistently ranked last or second to last in education. It is not acceptable for the district to compare their system to other failing systems. If you want to be competitive and you want to be successful, compare your system to, for example, Massachusetts. who is consistently ranked first in education. Compare your students' need for further education to the global standards. Teach your students what it means to be part of a global society. Teach the students how to stand up for their rights in a way that will actually aid them in our current geopolitical situation.
And then I just wanted to close out by saying that we are aware that a lot of you have had students that have graduated from CFHS or currently have students at CFHS and other schools in the district. And we just want you to know that we are more than willing to help you come up with solutions. We are more than willing to help our administrators come up with solutions. And we are extremely aware that the children in our schools today are the people that are going to be making up our future. And we just want them to have better. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you both
much.
for being here and sharing your comments with us. We appreciate it. You're welcome. You are, everyone is welcome to stay for the entire meeting, but of course, feel free to, we know you have a busy schedule as high school students, so whenever you need to leave, you won't offend us. But we would love you to stay as well. Mr. Pemberton.
Good evening. Here's some excerpts from books available at CFSD school libraries. In some instances, to children as young as 12. They have all been approved by the principals of those schools. So, first, Haunted. Quote, a friend of mine, when he was 13 years old, he heard about pegging. This is when a guy gets banged up the butt with a dildo. Stimulate the prostate gland hard enough, and the rumor is you can have explosive, hands-free orgasms. Next book, Beloved. All in their 20s, minus women, fucking cows, dreaming of rape. The new girl they dreamed of at night and fucked cows for, while waiting for her to choose. Next book, All Boys Aren't Blue. He asked me to turn over while he slipped a condom on himself, but this was my ass, and I was struggling to imagine someone beside me, and he was large. I had previously topped someone who clearly enjoyed it, but he had enjoyed anal sex long before I ever came. He got on top and slowly inserted himself into me, and then he added more lube. That's Boys Aren't Blue. Next book, Flowers in the Attic. Somehow we ended up on that old mattress, and that's where he took me and forced in that swollen, rigid male sex part of him that had me satisfied. It drove into my tight, resisting flesh, which tore and bled. The next book, Upside Unrequited. Watching you pee and have sex and masturbate. These writings are pornographic and inappropriate for minors. I find it hard to believe that there are no age-appropriate and non-pornographic alternatives. I find it hard to believe that all of this porn must be made available to minors in the schools to serve some greater educational need that cannot wait until they turn 18. I find it hard to believe that you would approve of this porn for your own children or grandchildren. If you continue to allow pornography with bestiality, graphic homosexuality, premarital sex, and rape, then at least inform the parents of the district so that they can make an informed decision and opt their children access to school-provided porn. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pemberton. Okay, we've heard the two public comments that were submitted in person. There are none online. So we move to our consent agenda. Are there any board members who have any items that should be pulled from the consent agenda for further discussion?
I would like to pull 3.4, the fundraising request.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Then I will ask for a motion as to all items except 3.4.
I move the governing board approve the governing board August 26, 2025 regular meeting minutes as presented. The governing, I move the governing board approve the expense voucher memorandum as presented. I move the governing board approve the field trip request memorandum as presented. I move the governing board approve the personnel memorandum as presented. that the governing board approve the terms and conditions for the acceptance of monies from the School Facilities Division Building Renewal Grant, BRG, Fund for BRG project number BRG 007605 for the replacement of 2 water valves at the Catalina Foothills High School in the estimated amount of $9,257.97 as presented. I move that the governing board approve the School Facilities Division award to Midstate Mechanical for the HVAC replacement at Ventana Vista Elementary School in the amount of $42,370. And my computer is doing this and is now frozen, so I can't get to the bottom of this motion. Can you? Thank you. Strangely. That was 3.7, so this is 3.8. The School Facilities Division awards to Concord General Contracting, Kelly Wright and Associates, and Swayman Associates for the HVAC replacement project at Orange Grove Middle School totaling $1,749,908 as presented.
Thank you.
Oh, you know what, I need it for the
We got a
3.4 when we
motion.
get there.
Is there a second?
A second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Now, as to consent agenda item 3.4, approval of fundraising request memorandum. Gina?
Yes, thank you very much. Given that we're at the start of the school year, and the fundraising request includes obviously financial information from our boosters, etc. I was wondering, Dr. Bartlett, would you mind providing an update as to the training that booster clubs, FFOs, etc. Need to take each year with regards to financial stewardship?
Sure. So as you know, districts are highly regulated as far as, you know, the guidelines we have to follow for procuring goods, for, you know, all of the financial scenarios you can imagine. And so our FFOs and our booster clubs take a mandatory training every year, the treasurer and the president, so that they can learn directly from our director of finance, Miss Lisa Tatel, what procedures to follow when they are engaging in their business to procure goods or offer dine-outs or fundraise or any type of financial activity that they're undertaking. So again, we have all of our FFO presidents and treasurers, all of our booster club presidents and treasurers, all of our administrators, and our athletic director all take this mandatory training annually.
I'm sorry, is that in person or remote?
We had 2 in-person sessions on Tuesday, August 26th, and Wednesday, August 27th, one in the morning, one in the evening. We also recorded the session, and I have sent it out to everyone who has not attended and asked them for not an affidavit, but a statement that they have reviewed, yes, an assurance that they have reviewed the information. So that is an annual training that all of the FFOs and boosters must go through.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Are there any other questions about that item or discussion? Then I'd entertain a motion on 3.4.
I move that, I move that do you have it? Go for it. Here, I move that the governing board approve the fundraising request memorandum as presented.
Excuse me, there's been a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We have one matter of unfinished business to address this evening, and that is, sorry, I have to make it bigger so I can read it. Our approval of revisions to policy IJ and regulation IJR, instructional resources and materials. This is a second reading, as I indicated, and it is an action item for this evening. And to present, we welcome Cheryl Castro, Executive Director of Curriculum and Assessment, to the podium.
Thank you. So presented for your approval are the revisions to policy IJ and regulation IJR, instructional resources and materials, which were updated to include language related to parent-guardian access to instructional materials as outlined in the recent Mahmood v. Taylor decision. A key change in both the policy and the regulation, if you're looking in your board packets, it's pages 38 to 39 on policy IJ, that's first and second pages of the policy. And on the regulation IJR, that's page 41 of your packet, or page 2 of IJR. It's the exact same language on both of the documents. This is the key change, and its language was added to clarify that a parent or legal guardian may object to an activity or learning material based on the assertion that the materials or activity are harmful, including because the materials or activity would question the family's beliefs or practices in sex, morality, or religion. Other changes to the policy include the following. Parent, legal guardian replace parents or guardians throughout the document. Then on page 38 of your packet, which is page 1 of the policy, in paragraphs 4 to 5, you'll see that clarifications were made regarding the use of purchased and school-issued books and school property. And on the same page, the last full paragraph directly above the heading Access to Instructional Material by the Parent or Legal Guardian, that was modified to clarify that parent permission is required to use video, audio, or electronic materials that may be inappropriate for the age of the student per regulation IJNDR Technology Resources. A video or movie is deemed appropriate if it is rated as follows. Grades K to 5, a rating of G. Grades 6 to 8, a rating of G, PG, or TV PG. Grades 9 through 12, a rating of G, PG, TV PG, PG-13, or TV-14. That was the policy. I could stop there if you have questions on the policy, or I could move on to the regulation.
No questions for me.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to the regulation. At the first reading, 2 changes were requested to regulation IJR. Those changes are highlighted in yellow on the regulation, and I'll note those when I get to them. So it's the same as the policy on the regulation IJR, parent and legal guardian replace parents or guardians throughout the document. Then if you turn to page 40 in your packet, which is page 1 of the regulation, you'll see a few changes were made there. The last sentence of the first paragraph was revised to improve readability. We just rejigged the words a little bit so that it flowed a little bit better. And then 2 new sections were two new section headings were added: currently adopted materials and materials being considered for use. And then the content was reorganized under each of those to improve readability. The first bullet under currently adopted materials was revised to emphasize that requests for access to instructional materials will be submitted in writing to the principal's office. And then the 5th bullet on that same page under that same heading was revised to clarify that digital resources may be viewed during school hours on school premises. On page 2, which is page 41 of your packet, in the section titled Objections to Learning Materials, the 3 bullets that were originally revised to streamline the process for submitting objections to learning materials or activities were moved from the end of that section to the beginning at your request at the first reading, and so that's why those sections are highlighted in yellow. And then in the 6th bullet under objections to learning materials, language was added to clarify that no penalty would accrue to the student in district-issued grades or credit. That came about as one of your requests so that we could clarify that we have no control over grades or credit that might be earned through, for example, an AP exam. So these are district-issued grades or credit. At the first reading, you had a question about student-produced materials, whether they're oral or written, and if they apply, and you asked us to consult our legal team, which we did, and we were told that student presentations are not learning materials or instructional materials, and so they are not applicable to this policy.
Excellent.
Any questions of Ms. Castro?
No questions.
Just want to thank you. I know we talked about this for a long time a couple of weeks ago, and had lots of suggestions, ideas, and I just thank you for you and your team being so responsive to our input into this policy.
We appreciate your suggestions. It makes it better.
As long as there's 2 readings. not 3. 4.
There you go.
I'm just kidding, I know
Coming
that
later.
you will
We
respond
will
to
read as
whatever
many readings as we
readings as we
need.
need to get it to where we want to
Exactly.
be. Thank you. If there's no other questions, comments, or discussion about this is an action item for this evening. Would someone like to make a motion?
Make a motion.
Okay,
I move the governing board approve the revisions to IAJ and Regulation IJR, instructional resources and materials as presented.
thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have several items for our consideration under new business this evening. The first of which is 5.1, consideration of revisions to policy GCQF, discipline, suspension, and dismissal of professional staff members. For further discussion, we turn to Associate Superintendent Mindy Westover.
Good evening.
Thank you.
I am bringing forward to you this morning, or this afternoon, or evening. It's been
You
a
don't know
long
what
day,
day it
folks. It is evening, thank you.
Early evening.
Revisions to policy GCQF, discipline, suspension, and dismissal of professional staff members. So we are recommended to bring the policy into alignment with Senate Bill 1659, which amends ARS Statute 15350. This amendment establishes new statutory requirements for schools and school districts when requesting information from the Department of Education regarding allegations of misconduct by employees who have resigned or otherwise separated from employment. Accordingly, a new section has been added to the policy addressing provisions of the State Board of Education. The revisions specify the following 2 statements, so it's 2 paragraphs that were added. The first paragraph highlights that a school or school district that employs or is considering the employment of an individual may request information from the State Board of Education regarding allegations of misconduct, applicable to both certificated and non-certificated individuals. The second paragraph says the State Board of Education is required to provide us the requested information unless disclosure will impede an active investigation. In such cases, the information would be released to us once the investigation has been concluded. These revisions ensure that our district policy remains consistent with state law and current regulation and guidance. With that, I would be happy to take any questions about those new elements or any of the policy.
As a point of clarification on the second paragraph, if there is an investigation in progress, that seems like it could potentially be something that would impact the hiring decision. And isn't really clearly stated there what would happen in that case.
I mean, one of 2 things could happen. We could hold off on the employment until we knew the recommendation for employment, until we knew the outcome of the investigation, which is more than likely what would happen, or we would move forward with a different candidate. We can be, very honest with a candidate if their license or certification is in investigation. Not specifically what the investigation is for, but we can, either put them on hold or we would not hire them.
Is it disclosed then to us that there is an active investigation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And that we're able to see that for some time, that there is an investigation on a certification when we go to look that certification up. This is just now saying that the Department of Ed must notify us when we ask what the actual investigation is regarding.
Okay. But nothing says you can't inquire of the candidate.
Correct.
So if you get input, in theory, if the response is there's an investigation, you might share that with the candidate. And if that candidate chooses to disclose, which of course may or may not be accurate, you'd have no way to validate that.
Right.
Which doesn't mean you can't ask the candidate.
Which is more than likely why we'd wait.
Yeah.
But yes, we can do that, certainly.
It's not one of our questions that we
Right.
use for interviews, but
Right.
We could.
Yeah, and I think it's important to know that being under investigation for misconduct could also be breaking a contract in a different district. So there's a wide range of things that it could be. Obviously, the more severe cases are things you clearly would not want to employ someone with.
In general, how would we react to someone who broke a contract with another district?
In general, we don't even interview people who are under contract with other
Oh,
districts. It's one of our first questions that we ask. However, they're not always honest. And so sometimes we do find ourselves in those situations, and we generally break communication with them until they've either been released from the other district.
So it's a deal killer for us. We are not
Yes.
trying to encourage anyone to break a contract with another school district.
Correct.
So we certainly wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of that either.
Right.
To hear.
I assume there are also many circumstances where certificated employees resign or otherwise separate from employment, and there's not a notice given to the State Board of Education, right?
Well, if you're talking about if they resign, they can resign and it not be something that will be turned into the investigation office. But in the case that there is allegations of something that should be turned in, we are required, there are certain things that we are absolutely required to report. And I think it's important that it's not necessarily about employment or legal cases. It's strictly about their certification with the Department of Ed. So that doesn't really go away if you transfer from one district to another. Because the certification is through the state. So if a school is, say an employee is under investigation and then goes to another school, their cert would still be under investigation.
I see. And so we don't, when a teacher leaves before his or her contract is up, we don't report that to the state board? 'Cause
We
isn't
do.
that grounds for them to have their
Yes,
certificate
we do.
endangered? Yeah,
We do. Yes.
I thought I heard you say that we don't necessarily, but I must have misheard.
Yes, we do, but not all school districts do. So they could potentially break, and like I said, they might not reveal to us that it is.
But that's what it is.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
So if that's a discretionary disclosure, is any kind of misbehavior a required disclosure?
It is on the application, which part of the policy states if they've found to be dishonest on that application, that is grounds for dismissal.
When I mean
If
more
they
in
were
the-
already hired.
I mean more in the sense of what you would be, when you said earlier, we're required to report certain information to the state. That we is every district, right?
Yes.
So there are things that a district is required to disclose to the State Board of Ed. So that would all be just kind of putting the pieces together here about, this is basically saying we have more information now than we had before when we're deciding on a candidate.
We have more access to the specifics of the investigation. Whether or not a certification is under investigation has always been there. The difference now is we can request the specifics of why, and if it is not being, if it wouldn't impede the investigation, the Department of Ed, starting in September, has to tell us what that reason is, and then they also have to follow up and tell us once the investigation is complete. So really, most of those elements were already in place. The only difference is before we would just know it was under investigation and not necessarily why. Now they will tell us it is under investigation for. So for example, they might say it is under investigation because a contract was broken with another district, because the fingerprint clearance card was revoked, because, you know, there's a myriad of things it could be, but those are some examples of kind of
I
maybe
wonder
some
what the
smaller
impetus was for the state legislature to add that. Do you know?
Well, because, you know, if it shows that it's under investigation, but and a district doesn't have any information, that they could potentially still, you know, that's a certificated individual, and it, you know, it could be something as simple as breaking a contract. And so let's say you're trying to hire a math teacher in August, you know, there potentially could have been districts that may have taken that chance and then unfortunately would have hired someone that, had they known more information on, they potentially would not have. So I think it's all in the realm of just having more clarity in order to make the best hiring decisions, and, you know, making sure that we keep the right people in education and potentially some of the wrong
Student safety.
characters out.
So it's a positive development.
Yes, absolutely.
Any other questions about this policy? It will come back in 2 weeks?
Yep, I'm good.
I mean, okay.
And there is a typo in the second paragraph. Thank you, Mr. Logue, for catching that. And so we'll fix that typo on the second reading.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you for that. Item, did we lose Ms. Castro?
No, she's here.
Oh, okay. I didn't see you back there. Item 5.2 is consideration of revisions to policy IKF graduation requirements. The policy that keeps coming back, year after year, sometimes
My
twice a year.
favorite policy.
Director of Curriculum and Assessment, Cheryl Castro.
Thank you. So as you know, House Bill 2540 amended ARS 15741 to include requirements regarding high school assessments conducted by a source outside of the school district and made allowances for written assessments. And the policy has been updated to ensure compliance with those new requirements. 2 sections were added to policy IKF as described below. Assessments, and if you look on page 60 of your packet, which is page 4 of the policy, we can just go through these one by one. If an enrolled high school student takes a nationally recognized assessment that's adopted by the State Board of Education and administered outside of the district, the student or the student's parent legal guardian may submit the student's official score report to the district. Upon receiving the official score report, the district is required to record the score in the student's file, report the score to the State Board of Education and the Department of Education, and if the student or parent's legal guardian or the student's parent legal guardian submits an official score report before the date on which the school administers the tests, allow the student to opt out of participation in the assessment. If the student opts out, the district shall use the data from the student's official score report for the student's achievement data. And our Director of Student Data Assessment and Accountability, Justin Robbins, I always have to think on that title. He asked me to share the following with you about this particular change to the policy. He says that ADE confirmed that this process is exactly the same as what's been in place for the last few years, with the exception that now there is no longer a minimum cutoff score, whereas in previous years it was a requirement that students had to meet proficiency cut scores on ELA and math in order to have their scores collected and recorded. ACT continues to be the only test that can be accepted at the current time, and it must include the writing portion. And what Justin told me is that typically when students are taking the test on their own from an outside source, they often do not take the writing test, which led to the fact that no one has qualified thus far in our district for these types of reports, but now they can submit them whether they meet the proficiency cutoff or not. Then under written assessments on pages 4 to 5, that's pages 60 to 61 of your packet. The district may administer statewide assessment in the form of a written test if the written test is required pursuant to an individual education program or a Section 504 plan to accommodate special circumstances, for religious purposes, or on the request of a student's parent legal guardian. And so there was a question about when we would do this. And there was also a question about the test is a digital test, it's a computer-based test, and the default is for students to take it via the computer. Every request for a written assessment has to be submitted to ADE, and when you provide the rationale, they approve it, but every single request for a written test has to be submitted and approved. The wording that Justin gave me is all state achievement tests are administered by computer by default unless a paper revision is specifically requested. Paper-based tests are only approved for the circumstances listed in the policy. And so one of the circumstances that you had a question about was, I think it was the special circumstances. In the past, we've had students who had concussions who can't look at a computer screen for a long period of time, or maybe one of their fingers are broken on a hand, and so it's easier for them to do a written test. Those are the types of things and also special education services. Those are the ones that are submitted for approval of a written test. No other changes were made to the wonderful policy IKF.
May I just ask a clarifying question? So is this, although it's not specific to the ACT, is that the best example of when this might happen? So a student, because that's administered during school hours, so if a student takes it outside of school, they could submit that score instead and then not take it at school? Is
Correct.
that a good example of what we're talking
That's
about here?
the change now.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, okay. And is that the only such assessment that is captured under this, or are there other?
It's the only state-approved test right now for our, for not graduation, but that our juniors have to take. They have to take the ACT as the state assessment. So that's the assessment that they can use this.
So for us, that's what it applies
So
to.
for us,
That's what it applies.
There's really no
Yeah.
other circumstance for us that it would
Correct.
apply to.
Okay, okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Correct.
Gerald, can you explain the last paragraph before written assessment? I keep reading it and I can't quite get my mind around what that means. The district is not required to allow a student to opt out of the collection of non-test indicator data or other information that is collected about students who participate in the assessment that's administered by the district.
So you probably remember clearly when you were students.
Clear?
And before the test even started, you had to fill out a lot of demographic information. Remember that? That's the kind of information it's talking about. So we are not required to allow students to opt out of the collection of that data because we use some of that data, for example, in some of Dr. Bartlett's goals when we're looking for subpopulate groups.
Okay,
And so,
okay.
So we're not required to allow them to opt out, which means we are allowed to require them.
Fill that part out.
everyone is going to
Got it.
fill out that demographic data. Yeah,
But
everyone.
not necessarily on that test day, because what is this student doing on that test day that they've been able to opt out of because they took it elsewhere? Do they take the day off? Do we
We
provide?
don't know because it's never happened
alternative-
before.
But what if they were going to another, school? I guess that wouldn't apply, because then they'd be
No.
that district student.
We've never had it, but we would have to, I would imagine the high school kid is not gonna show up, but if they do, then we would provide an alternative learning
Okay.
situation.
And there are some districts that offer the assessment in the fall and spring.
Oh.
So they could potentially have taken it in the fall and counted that score
I see.
if they took the full complete assessment. So because the ACT is one of those things that's offered, it could be. I mean, many students probably don't want to take that twice a year, but.
Right.
Some kids want to retest and get a better score.
Yeah, true. Which they can do, right?
Yeah,
They just take it on their,
absolutely,
on their own. Going back to Eileen's question, the demographic information at the start, before the test even begins, that's anonymized, if memory serves me correctly.
That's what?
Anonymized, it's anonymous as, like, we don't, it's anonymized when we get it, right? We don't
Well-
see what an individual
Probably
student.
not
No,
anonymous.
not
when
We
we-
have
Really?
access to.
Yeah,
But anything
we'll
that's
know what subgroup they're
10
in.
students or less doesn't appear in any report. Remember, there's always
Exactly,
those.
that's what I'm trying to
yes,
confirm.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
We
exactly.
aren't seeing it,
We're
nobody
not
looking
seeing
at
it.
our test data is gonna see it,
Exactly.
but you guys probably.
We will see it.
But attached to the student's name, or you see
Yes.
it in aggregate?
It's attached to the student's name and their SACE ID number and
Okay.
all of that.
We see all the student grades.
Grades, yes.
Assessment results.
too.
Yes, no, I
Results,
understand,
yeah.
but I'm talking about the demographic information that's captured, that Cheryl was talking about a few minutes ago.
Yeah, we get it by demographic group. So if they're a student who is on free reduced lunch, it'll indicate that. If they're a student of an ethnic group, it'll indicate that. If they answer it correctly.
Any other questions about policy IKF?
Seems like a win for kids.
We will have it back in 2 weeks. If you think of anything between now and then, bring your questions back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cheryl.
Or just stay.
Hang out with us.
Agenda item 5.3 is consideration of revisions to the district's Arizona State Seal of Arts Proficiency Program description. This is a first reading. Cheryl Castro.
There's just one small change to this, well, actually three, but it's really one change. This is for our Arizona State Seal of Arts Proficiency Program description, which we're required to submit to ADE every year to make sure that it complies with their requirements. As you know, the Arizona State Seal of Arts Proficiency recognizes our high school students who demonstrate high levels of proficiency in the arts education standards through personal expression and creative experiences. Students at Catalina Foothills High School may earn the State Seal of Arts Proficiency by successfully completing one of three ways: 4 credits in one artistic discipline, music, theater, visual arts, media arts, or 3 credits in one artistic discipline and 1 qualifying CTE credit, that's a career and technical education credit, or 2 credits in one artistic discipline and 2 credits in a qualifying CTE class. Students are also required to earn a final GPA of 3.0 to 4.0 in each qualifying arts or CTE course, and they must submit an artistic statement or reflection, a capstone project, a log sheet of arts extracurricular activities, and artifacts of the design process. The only change to the program description is the addition of 3 qualifying CTE courses: Film and TV 1, Film and TV 2, and Film and TV 3.
When you say description, are you talking about how in our, what gets sent to the Department of Education?
So the Department of Education sends out, it's almost like a Google form, but it's on their platform where I have to fill in the district information, my contact information. I have to sign that we agree to abide by the policies or the rules as outlined in this guidebook, and that teachers and counselors make sure that the appropriate credits are earned. So I fill that out first, and then the teachers have access to our framework, which follows what the state tells us to do. And it just is basically an instruction book for how to use how to go about applying for the State Seal of Arts Proficiency. And when you went through it, you probably noticed some places highlighted in yellow.
Yep.
We do that intentionally because every year I update this and then I send it to the teachers so that they can adjust it when they send it out to their students and add it, because I don't know what their due dates are going to be. They set the due dates for different pieces of this. I just put the general application materials together for them.
May I ask a question? Do you anticipate so first of all, I'm thrilled about the addition of more classes here, of course. Do you anticipate that this will potentially increase the number of students who are pursuing?
What we've seen so far is a general rise. You know, it's kind of like the State Seal of Biliteracy, where it started out with, what did we have, like 8 kids at the beginning, and now it filled this room so much that now they have to move it to the high school.
Right.
And so we're seeing that same type of increase with the State Seal of Arts Proficiency. To be honest, this requires a lot of work, you know. Not to say that the Seal of Biliteracy doesn't. They have to be able to demonstrate the ability to speak, read, write, listen in the target language, but it doesn't require the extra things that are required. They have to do the capstone. They have to write their statement of artistic expression. They have a lot of things that they have to do to comply with, or to meet the requirements of this particular honor.
And do you anticipate, given as we're seeing this gradual increase, which is fantastic, understanding that a teacher mentor is required for each student, and understanding the time required of them and everybody's limited bandwidth, how are you thinking about handling that? So for example, do you feel that we may need to put a cap on the number of students who are pursuing this, or do you feel that there's a way of incorporating more teachers, into being the mentors? The reason I'm asking is because my understanding from recent year is that some of the teachers met their maximum capacity in terms of the number of students that they could mentor, and so if we're adding more classes that potentially increase that eligibility, do we also need to look at then how we staff it and ensure that, do you see what I'm getting at? Ensure how we make this viable for the students and the teachers, of course.
My main point of contact for this project every year is Renee Shane Boyd, since she's the general leader of the performing arts team. She's never expressed to me that we don't have enough teachers, so I'll have to ask her about that.
It might be something to look into.
And if we're adding now
3 more classes.
3 more classes, but
You'd
I
have more
assume those are
teachers
different,
there.
more teachers.
That teacher
In
was
that
already
area.
involved, though.
Oh.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
take your point, however, that teacher was already involved and is already involved. So we're adding potentially more students, but not another teacher to oversee more projects.
I'll ask.
Thanks.
I'll ask Renee.
Thank you.
If you wouldn't mind bringing that back to the next reading, that'd be
Sure, I
fantastic.
will.
Appreciate it.
Anything else on this policy? Okay. So that,
Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
So under new business, we've covered 3 items that are matters of policy. The next one is a different topic altogether, and it is consideration of the superintendent's proposed performance goals for 2025, 2026. Thank you, Dr. Bartlett.
So I've attached the goals. You've had that in your packet. And the goals, just remember, they constitute one small piece of the overall performance plan for me. They're in addition to all of the responsibilities that are already delineated in policy CBA, that has the job description, outlines the priority operational expectations in several of the work categories. So the goals that we derived, we've worked with our administrative team, and they've worked with their teachers, but they are derived from our strategic plan, your feedback during my performance evaluation in the spring, and other work necessary that we feel is to ensure an effective school for students and staff. So although they're referenced as the superintendent's goals, they're really all the district's goals. They're for the teachers, principals, myself, and the staff at the district as well. So the purpose of your formal annual review of these goals is to make sure that we agree about the performance, about the importance and the focus of our work. So I have put together just a presentation that we can discuss the goals. So the purpose, of course, is to align with the district's strategic priorities and deep learning goals and our shared core values. And the purpose is to reflect a shared commitment to fostering student success, increasing student achievement, and cultivating a thriving school community. Of course, we all have the same goals. These are our deep learning goals from our strategic plan, and we have 3 of those. It's reducing the gap between current and desired student achievement, raising the engagement of students so they are highly motivated to set and achieve increasingly challenged goals for deep learning, and partner with families and community to achieve our strategic priorities. So in my goal document, I've color-coded them for you so you know which of these deep learning goals that they align to. Excuse me. They also align with our core values, of course. We have these shared core values, and all of our goals are in alignment with these shared core values. We've determined that we really basically have 4 outcomes that we're really looking at. We want increased student achievement for all of our students. We want to retain high-quality teachers and staff. We want to improve our school climate and culture. And we want to increase community outreach and awareness to foster strong relationships with our community. Each of those kind of align to those deep learning goals as well. So our first outcome is increasing student achievement, and student learning and achievement. So we have 3 goals for this. One is and they're basically the same goal with different content. So we want to, by 2030, we want to increase the percentage of students scoring proficient or higher to 80% on the Math State Achievement Test, the ELA State Achievement Test, and the Arizona Science State Achievement Test. So here, we're going to go through some of the data review and why we've chosen these as our goal. You can see that science is tested in grade 5, 8, and 11. And you can see, as we start in 5th grade, our scores for the past several years have continued to go down a little bit in our 5th grade. They've gone up a little bit in our 8th grade. They're actually, from last year to this year, they've stayed steady. And at the high school, they've gone down a bit. Our overall percentage of proficiency as a district is 57.1%. So we're trying to increase that to 80% by 2030. So we have some work to do. Different grade levels have different amounts of work, but yes, we do have some work to do. If you look, so our action steps, some of the action steps that we've considered, this isn't all of them, and of course each action step will then have strategies that we'll be implementing, but we want to strengthen our instructional practices by implementing evidence-based strategy in science to improve the achievement. We want to enhance the use of assessment and data, developing staff capacity to analyze results and apply findings to guide instruction and improve student outcomes. And we want to strengthen leadership capacity by implementing consistent observation and feedback cycles that support instructional growth and professional development. So we want to have strong instructional practices, and we want to give them feedback on those instructional practices to continuously improve, and then use the assessment data to continually improve. So that was for science, our action steps. Our math data review, so you can see all of the grades that are tested in math. The overall district is the first column, and you can see we're at about 57.5% as a district. But you can see the 3 years of data that we're looking at. We've got grade 4 has seen an increase, grade 5 has seen an increase, grade 8 has seen an increase, but the other grades have either stayed stagnant or have fallen a little bit. So we want to increase that again to 80%. So different grade levels are going to have different amount of work to do to get to that 80%. Yes?
Clarification question. The goal, though, presumably pertains to the overall average, right? I mean, I appreciate when we get everybody
Yes.
to the 80,
Yes.
the way we'll be measuring it.
Yes, the district
is the
average.
district average.
Yes. So we had some sample action steps. Again, we want to implement high-quality standards, aligned instruction, and targeted interventions that address student learning needs. We're going to review and align the math curriculum with the state standards and implement consistent assessment practices to monitor the student progress, adjust instruction, and improve the learning outcomes. We're going to optimize our staffing and instructional structures to meet student learning needs. An example of that is we want our strongest math teachers teaching the students who need that the most. So we're going to look at our staffing, and we're going to optimize that staffing. We also want to look at the staffing ratios in our standard math classes, because right now they have a higher student-to-teacher ratio than some of our more advanced classes. And so we want to look at our staffing ratios. So that would be an example there. And then provide ongoing support for math instruction to strengthen math teaching and learning, again, through that observation and feedback to our teachers. So our ELA data is our strongest area. You can see that we are at a district average of about 70%, so we have less distance to go for our ELA. But still, we still have some ways to go. And again, you can see each grade level has some have increased. The 7th grade really did a nice increase this year. So did our 9th grade. And our 11th grade did a little bit. But our 5th grade dipped down a little bit, and our 6th grade. So we want to increase all of those. So our district average is 80% in ELA.
Denise, what is that bar on that graph?
It's
under
just the
small?
slide. It's the slide.
Oh, it's just a blip.
It's
Okay,
a blip on the slide. Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't recognize that. It's one of the design. The slide design has a little blue mark on it. So our action steps, again, implement data-driven ELA interventions to address individual learning needs. You can see a theme that we're really looking at the interventions, and of course, the best defenses are your first instruction, right? The instruction everybody gets, but when students are not getting or making progress with that first best instruction, then we need to look at our interventions and how do we address those individual learning needs. Strengthening our instructional practices by implementing evidence-based strategies, and then provide teachers with effective tools, resources, and ongoing support to enhance ELA instruction to better meet the diverse needs and our learning needs. So again, those are just action steps that will have then strategies listed at each site. So any questions about the first three goals for the student achievement, because we're going to get into some of the other goals then.
Clarify, we talk about proficiency data.
Mhm.
We always talk about how state assessments are only one measure, we measure it by lots of different things. So what are you looking at that's going to comprise that value?
This is the state assessment.
Just the state assessment?
Mhm.
Okay.
It's just the state.
Yes. Mhm. Yes.
Thank you. And,
We're using all of our other assessments
Yes.
as indicators of growth along the way. But so grades and other assessments that they take during the school year gives us some predictive nature is how we're trying to use those.
so when you see a number of 57% proficiency, that doesn't necessarily mean that a student is not proficient in the math, or that means on that state test.
Correct.
So when we look at all of our other measures, we have other ways of analyzing whether the student is mastering the content.
Sure.
better Besides
Yes.
that one number.
That is correct.
But we're still placing an emphasis on that number, because I assume it also factors into many other things that are
Well,
important to us.
it's an external indicator as well. Grading and grading our own assessments, they have some subjectivity to it. There's very little subjectivity to this. So we're using this as our final, because if we can get 80% of our students to proficient or highly proficient, we know that they're going to be making progress in our daily curriculum as well.
And along those lines, actually, just to clarify, that proficiency metric is a 4-point scale.
It
right?
is.
And we're talking about the top 2.
3 and 4, correct. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, another outcome is we want to retain high-quality teachers and staff. So we want to maintain our teacher retention rate of 86% or higher among certified staff. So I have some data. So our teacher retention rate, we've gone back to many years, from 1920 to 24-25. You can see our best year was in 23-24 at 87%. But we've been as low as 79%. And that was right when we came back from the pandemic, which we had some people did not come back. So we're at 86.3, but that's a really variable number. So we really want to maintain it at 86 or higher, because we know that maintaining our teachers is going to increase student achievement as well. The more continuity we have in our teaching force is good for our students.
Do we know what the industry benchmark is?
It's about 20% attrition.
Attrition,
Mhm.
so
80.
we're a little bit higher,
So
so
we're higher,
80%.
yes, 80%.
We're a little bit higher than the benchmark.
Higher than that. Mhm.
Actually, 6 points is not little.
No, it's very good.
Yeah.
And of course, we will, each of the sites, you've seen that data before, the retention rate at each of the sites, and they will be looking at their own retention rates to see what they're going to be
So
doing.
it rolls up, and again, we'd be looking at the district average, not
Correct.
sites or
Correct. And of
grade
course,
levels or.
There are some reasons for retention that we can't mitigate. So if a person retires, they retire.
Yeah.
But that's still in this number.
Yes.
Yes, the spouse move, that's still in the number.
Yeah.
So we still want to monitor that and maintain that high retention rate. But we know we can't get it to 0.
Well, of course not, of course not.
Yes.
But what you're saying is that we don't want to be complacent about this 86%
Correct.
number. We need to keep it there, and we need to take active steps to make sure that it stays there, or perhaps higher. That'd be great, but,
Correct. Because we know the impact it has
Yeah.
on the schools and the student
and
achievement.
the cost of training somebody into
The-
our system.
definitely.
There's a huge 3-year investment,
Definitely.
and then beyond,
Correct.
in teaching people to be team members in our place.
Mhm.
And it's important to maintain that investment.
Correct.
I appreciate that, thanks.
So some of these, the retention steps is we're going to develop the supportive structure and scheduling practices to improve staff satisfaction and retention. You know that we will be administering a climate survey so that we can gather this information from our staff. We want to provide ongoing supports and professional development that build teacher capacity and that strengthen their commitment to the school community. I don't know if you saw the news story last night on KOLD.
did.
about our reading program.
Yes.
Yes, and she talked about how that makes her want to stay in the district because she's supported with our curriculum, and that curriculum makes a big
I believe
difference.
she was a new teacher as well.
This is her second year, I believe, in the district. She teaches at Sunrise Drive. I can send that to you.
What do you mean by supportive structure and scheduling practices?
So, meaning, do they have common planning time to work together with their staff? Do they have intervention time at the same time? So we're looking at their schedules and providing some supportive structures so that they are reinforced and are able to build on their skills for teaching ELA. And then we want to foster a collaborative and supportive work environment that includes celebrations and recognitions. So we want to increase the recognitions and celebrations of our staff and students, which also build that commitment to your school and district. Any questions about that? Attention? Okay. Then we want to improve our school climate and culture. And our goal is really to reduce the number of off-campus suspension days by 10%. So we know that in order for students to continue to grow, they need to be in school. So this is one way that we are addressing that. But we also know that we need to have safe schools, and we need to assist our students who are experiencing behavioral difficulties. So we have looked at the number of days of out-of-school suspension assigned by year, and you can see that during the 2021 school year, of course, that was
Everyone was at home
the
anyway.
pandemic. And then when they came back to school,
They forgot how to behave.
there was some behavioral issues, and then we had started to go down, and we went up a little bit next year, or this past year. So we want to continue to reduce some of those out-of-school suspension. Now, of course, that doesn't mean just assigning fewer days. That means addressing the students who are multi-time offenders, right? So if they have two instances of a behavioral issue that got them out of school suspended. So what are we doing to intervene with the students before they have a disciplinary action? So it's not about just assigning fewer days. This is about intervening with students at the point where we can help them not repeat offend.
Would you also consider alternatives to suspension?
Of course, of course. Mhm.
So it's both sides.
Yes.
And when you're talking about strengthening proactive supports and relationships, I think, are you speaking there to this idea that students need to feel connected to the school,
Of course.
to significant adults in the school, and making sure that we're fostering those relationships and that our kids are known by the responsible
Correct.
adults that are in school?
Correct.
It's under number 2, under discipline action steps.
Yeah,
It's
she
just-
looked ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, you haven't gotten there yet. I apologize.
No, we haven't. But yes, these are the action steps that we've, implement consistent systems and structures for students' behavior. So we know that the middle school and high school are going to collaborate on, how they're assigning discipline. But we're also going to strengthen those proactive supportive relationships to prevent behavioral issues. We have check-in and check-out where when kids go to a trusted adult at the beginning of the day, they talk about what's going on for the day, and then they check out with them at the end of the day. How did it go? What were the strengths? What do you need to work on tomorrow? So that's a supportive structure that we have in all of our schools. That's just an example of that.
So you're saying we cut that by 31 days?
We can do it.
I believe us.
We have really good kids. We have really good kids.
My two aren't there anymore, so they won't factor in. They won't bring your curve down.
You're funny.
Another outcome to improve school climate and culture is that we want to increase the daily average attendance by 2% at each school. Now, well, I'll show you. So our average daily attendance is 89.77 right now. Well, the state defines chronic absenteeism as 10%.
And if you miss 10 classes, isn't that 10%?
That's
where
10%.
Where you don't get the credit in high school?
Correct. So 18 days is 10%. Also, the accountability system uses chronic absenteeism as an indicator for points. So there are points that you earn for the state accountability system for chronic absenteeism, or for reducing your chronic absenteeism.
You mean the A to F letter grade?
Yes, yes. But, so it looks like 89, but you can see the discrepancy at the different sites. So our elementaries have higher, it starts to go down in the middle schools, and then the high school has the lowest attendance rates. So unfortunately, the high school, they don't have chronic absenteeism as an indicator for their A through F accountability, so we have to monitor that ourselves. But again, this is about intervening with students who are reaching those thresholds. Once they hit 5 days, do they hit 7 days, do they hit 9 days? You know, intervening with those families so that it doesn't become a chronic absenteeism.
Which obviously affects their ability to learn, their
Correct.
belonging in school, their connections with adults and other students. It's everything.
Exactly. So, and of course, there are medical issues understanding that and working with the family on those. Again, it's just to really maintain a connection to the school. Kids who are in school are going to do better. So we really want to, and that increases the culture too, because then teachers aren't trying to make up work with those students all the time. You know, when they're absent, there's that makeup work or makeup instruction that they try to do all the time. So it really becomes problematic if a student is out habitually.
So I can't imagine that we have a large number of students who fail to get credit because they've had more than, 18 absences?
Right.
So we must have some students that have really chronically absent
We do.
records.
We don't have many that don't get their credits.
Right. So we're talking about a subset of students for whatever reason.
Right.
So they're identifiable, and maybe some of the reasons behind that can be targeted somehow.
Right.
May I lead into this one a little bit? Fully respect and understand the reasons for diving into attendance rates and for that to be a goal. And in and of itself, I don't disagree. My concerns come from whether and how and to what extent does this ladder up to the outcome of improving school climate and culture. I'm not convinced, and I invite you to consider this before you come back in a couple of weeks on the next reading, whether this truly is the best, most appropriate goal. Not that it shouldn't be a goal, it should, but is this the best one for ensuring that we are improving school climate and culture? A couple of comments under that. One is, I greatly admire the vision of your first set of goals. By 2030, we're going to make this big impact. I'm curious, again, not for your instant reaction, but for your consideration, whether and how we could have a more inspirational goal with regards to student engagement in school climate. Earlier this evening, we had two young women who very eloquently spoke about their observations these first couple weeks of the month, I guess, of class, and student engagement, and some of the opportunities, potentially some of the misses that they're already observing, right? And it just makes me wonder if this truly is what's going to move the needle. I agree it should be measured. I agree that there's improvement that needs to be made there. I'm not convinced at this point, though, that it is that lofty, high-level goal that's really, truly going to move us forward in terms of school engagement and climate and culture. So I would invite you to consider that over the next couple of weeks.
I have a couple of questions. Are you sure? One of them's probably linked, but you.
I think Amy's carrying on.
I'm not sure I want to understand what you're saying, and I'm not sure that I do.
Sure.
So if attendance is, increasing attendance is worthwhile, and it does, there is a nexus to improve school climate and culture, but also student achievement. So I don't understand when you say, Sarah, did you say inspirational goals?
So there's an inspirational,
Sorry,
aspirational.
I'm not clear on that.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Thanks for the opportunity to clarify. So on the one hand, yes, there's a correlation between being in class enables you to engage, or being at school, right, enables you to engage in the class and to learn more, etc. Understand, accept, agree. However, by the same token, being in class doesn't mean you are engaged. You can be sitting in class and be very disengaged. You can physically be present and mentally not be present, right? And again, earlier this evening, we had two young women who very eloquently spoke to this about how can you engage? What more can we do to give our students this opportunity, and not only the opportunity, but the desire to not just physically be there, but to mentally be present and engaged. So that's where I'm coming from, Amy, is I'm not convinced that this is an aspirational enough goal. I agree it should be a goal. I agree it should be measured. I agree that there's positives there. I'm not convinced that it is that highest level of aspirational goal that's truly going to move the needle on, what does it ladder up to? It ladders up to, improving school climate and culture, raising the engagement of students so they are highly motivated to set and achieve increasingly challenging goals for deep learning, right? To be highly motivated, you have to be mentally engaged, you have to be inspired, you have to be motivated, you have to want to be there. You don't just have to, you cannot just be sitting in the seat. Does that help to clarify where I'm coming from? And again, I'm not looking for your instant reaction, Dr. Bartlett, I'm inviting you to consider this for the next reading.
Go ahead, Tom.
Be sure. Is yours related to?
I'm not sure yet. It's still
Okay, well, let it percolate. Mine
I'm taking
are
like
maybe a little
random
more-
fragments of notes.
A little more granular. So at the district-wide level, it's 89.87. So there's 10.13% due. What does that mean? At what point does that include excused absences? Does it include, like, what's included in that absenteeism number?
All of that, excused,
So
unexcused.
if I have a kid who, well, okay, so 1B, how much time elapses in the day before you go from what, tardy to absent?
Well, at the elementary, it's half days, right?
Okay,
Morning and afternoon.
yep.
That's their attendance. Middle school and high school is per period.
So it's actually counted, like numerator and denominator are both based
Yes.
on period, not
Yes,
day.
yes.
So if last year, I know there were a couple of times that my son left early for a track event, which representing the school, et cetera. Is that,
No, that wouldn't be counted in there because they're,
that wouldn't be counted
No.
because it's a school-related?
Right, it's
But if
school-related.
you get your kid to school late because the dentist office ran long and they missed the first period, they're absent for a piece of that.
correct.
Okay. Got it. So this isn't necessarily about full days. This is something that you can address a period at a time, additional days.
Sure. At the middle school and high school.
Yeah, got it. Thank you for clarifying that. Over to you, Jacqueline.
I agree with Gina. I think that it's more than just sitting in a seat in the classroom, that there's some possible way to reframe the goal, just for consideration. How many students are being involved in clubs, for example? That's where my mind goes directly to. That's a motivator for kids to come to school too. So thank you for bringing that up, Gina.
That only hits high school.
Yes, right.
So we've got to look at all, the whole district. So, they don't have, the elementary and middle school don't really have opportunities to join a club.
Outside of honor society, I think, correct?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
But we'll take it back into consideration.
I was just, also thinking, a lot of times, sometimes the absences are parent-driven. It's not necessarily the kid. I mean, I know that's the way my kids were. We would like to take an extra day and add it onto rodeo and go on vacation, and our kids would dig their heels and say, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to miss school.
Oh, wow.
But I know,
My kids were
right?
the opposite.
I mean, they were nuts. They were nuts. there's some of that, I think, that goes into that number as well. So it is kind of a,
There is, and that's specifically what we want to reduce.
so you're going after the parents, not the kids.
Well, we want to reduce this idea of, I need to take a week before spring break and a week after spring break and the week of spring break. I mean, you know, there is excessive
Oh, no, I hear you. I hear you.
absences that are not excused.
And if you recall, that's why we changed full break a few years ago.
Yes.
Right.
Right, from the
Exactly.
2 or 3 days, whatever it was,
Mhm.
to a full week, because we were just getting chronic absenteeism.
And we
But I'm sure it
changed our
still
conference
happens.
I'm
days,
sure it
It
is.
still
I'm
happens.
sure.
and we changed our conference days to the 3 days in the middle.
So I guess it just kind of goes to the topic at hand, that this is not necessarily a measure of engagement, of an individual student's engagement. So there's some credence to what we're talking about here, and it probably does require maybe some additional thought about this.
I also want to acknowledge that my son has graduated, so your attendance rate's been way up at high school. So, just want, that is our contribution.
Okay.
Suspension days down.
Thanks to you, attendance up, thanks to me, there we go.
Great. And then we have these these clear structures and systems to monitor and support and address the attendance challenges, and then we try to remove and address the barriers that families are experiencing, and then increase the family engagement to support consistent student attendance. Because you're right, a lot of times it is, especially at an elementary. They're not driving the car, they're not, but again, we want to increase bus ridership. We want to do all of those things that's part of getting the kids to school. And then increasing our outreach and awareness to foster strong relationships. We want to increase our non-resident open enrollment applications by 5%, and that's from 3,286 to 3,450. And of course, our enrollment goal is always 5,000 students plus. Okay, that's been our goal forever. That's when our budget is efficient. That we try to do that. But our current context is that our enrollment has declined 5.3% from 2019 to 2024, mainly due to declining birth rates. But our open enrollment numbers are static as well. And this year we're pacing down about 11 students from, it could be more by October or by the 40th day and by the 100th day, but right now it's about 11 students. And non-resident students make up about 51% of our total enrollment. But also, why are we targeting non-resident families? Well, the potential for growth within the district of our students is limited. If you look at the demographics, we are demographically older. Our average age is about 55 plus in the district. We only have 2.7% of our residents that are under age 5. And we only have 15% who are under 18, which is our school age. So yes, we want to, of course, target our in-district families as well, but we already register 80% of families who have children in our district. They send them to our schools.
How do we know that number?
We've looked at our the numbers that the state has given us. Julie has done analysis
That
of the
is
states.
data that the state gives us, so we know that.
Yeah,
Okay.
80%. So yes, we want to target our district families, of course. We would love to increase that enrollment to 95, 100% of our district families too, but you can see with declining birth rates and the aging population in the foothills, going outside of our boundaries is really where we're going to increase our enrollment. So,
Absolutely.
which is why we're increasing. Now,
Which also benefits our resident students.
of course,
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
of course.
It's what keeps us having the ability to offer the breadth of the programming that we offer and keep our 7 schools open.
Exactly.
There's been some conversation about that 51% number, whether that is actually out-of-district students or all students who open enroll from within the system. Have you drilled down on that at all?
You want to speak to that?
We're in process of cleaning that data to make sure that number, but 51% is our open enrollment, I think, in total. So that does include a percentage of in-district, which
who open enroll to another school in the district.
And I want to, really, our initial numbers are really low on that. It's around 5% because at the high school, there is no in-district,
none of
right?
that at the
Right.
high
Probably
school.
be those Ventana Vista.
Uh-huh.
Manzanita.
At the middle school, there's only, 2 options, right? So, I think there was like 23 kids at one site and 15 at another. So, we are
That's
kind
an
of swapping.
important distinction.
It
I mean, even if it drops the 51% to 49%, or, I mean, that.
Yes.
I think we should be
We should
accurate.
know what that number is, yeah.
Especially in a district of approximately 5,000 students, that's not a small number.
Yeah.
And right now, we're kind of working on making sure, we know the 51% are accurately marked as open enrollment. Now, whether that's in district or out of district, we're just working on cleaning that up, but.
Thank you.
And just to connect this back, I wasn't able to attend the Pima County Collaborative where this
I
was
wasn't either.
discussed,
Oh,
but
it was great, we did.
the demographic presentation seemed to paint a similarly bleak
Yes.
picture.
Absolutely.
Yes.
We are no different than everywhere else in Pima County, the state. I think the only district that's growing is Marana, if I remember correctly.
Not even Vail?
No,
Not even Vail, huh? Wow.
maybe Jacqueline.
I think he said Marana was the only one.
Was the only one?
And it really highlighted that the pie is the same,
Exactly.
but the options are increasing, so.
Yes.
Which goes to these, so, streamlining our enrollment process is what we're really looking at.
Yeah.
Especially for, do we have to apply for open enrollment every year? We're really looking at that. We really want to, change that. And then that targeted recruitment and outreach to attract and retain students as well is what we're looking at to do there.
There was a very interesting article in NPR recently about public schools recruitment efforts.
Was it on the
Take
Daily?
that out.
I heard one on
Share
the
one on the
Daily.
Daily. Yeah,
I listened to that one as well.
yeah.
And then this goes right into then our success stories, right? So we want to publish at least 36. I think we're on track for more than that, but across all of our channels, I think we could do 36 Parent Square, but that's not going to reach everybody. We want to broaden it to Parent Square, News Channel, all of those things.
So this is external sources as well, not just our
Correct.
social media and our
No.
Parent Square.
No.
Thank you.
No. But stories matter. Okay, our story matters because human stories feed word of mouth, and it builds pride in our schools. And then stories convert to increase in school tours. When you read a story, when you hear the story, I'm assuming from our story on our reading program, that's going to have an uptick in requests for tours at Sunrise Drive. But also the school inquiries and open enrollment applications. So all of those are when they hear stories, that we see a difference. And we've seen an increase in engagement since we started publishing our district-wide Parent Square stories too. People have really taken to those stories well because they're district-wide. It's not just targeted to one certain school. It's our district-wide program.
Oh, it's so great. I think it's awesome when the elementary parent can see what's happening at the middle
Correct.
school, high school.
Look what you have to
Continuity.
I mean, that's what.
And then we can track. This is what we can track from this. We can track the views and the engagement rates and the site traffic to enrollment pages. We can track the inquiry forms, the tour signups, the open enrollment applications during and after our campaigns, and we can track social media pickups and social shares and things like that. Those are all things that we can track to see the fruits of our labors. And really, there's really just highlight and celebrate school achievements and promote the district strengths for new and existing families because sharing our stories is important. And positivity begets positivity, and it brings more families. It really does when you hear about the positive thing. We have a lot to offer in our district, and we are a district of choice, but we can't just expect them to come to us. We have to go to them. And this is one way that we can do that. So how are we going to be monitoring? So our site and district leaders have each identified improvement goals with action steps and strategies to implement and monitor at their sites. So they have these school improvement plans, basically. We have a continuous review of data sets and progress at our monthly administrative team meetings. We're going to keep bringing this up. And
Austin's gonna be busy. I'm
yes,
sure he already is.
he is. And then each site is going to be providing ongoing updates towards our goal progress. I will be evaluating the principals based on progress on these goals, as well as I'm being evaluated on the same goals. So it's a full district effort. And the assurances that we have are that, you know, these goals are assurances that we're responsive to the diverse needs of our students. We're proactive in driving school improvement. That's what this is really about. School improvement is about small incremental steps to get to a major goal. And we're really being proactive in that. And our goal serves as a roadmap for achieving our academic excellence. And it serves to prepare all students to thrive in our ever-changing world. And, you know, this is a quote that we've used with our administrators. At the heart of a school improvement is simple truth. Better schools mean better lives for students. And that's what these goals are meant to do, is to increase our schools, to improve our schools so that our children, our students are thriving in all of their endeavors. And beyond, when, you know, when they leave CFSD, we want them to have a better life. Okay.
More questions, if I may? And if we could go back to topic 4, please, the increased community outreach. Sorry, I didn't catch it in time. I didn't realize we were moving subjects at the time, or I would have asked it at that point. I apologize. So, yeah, thank you. Fully appreciate where you're coming from with regards to the Stories Matter. And my question, and again, this isn't for you to respond to right now, but rather for you to take under consideration, should you see fit, is whether the act of publishing is the appropriate goal, or is the engagement with what we are publishing a more appropriate goal. With that said, in your subsequent slides, you did go on to point out that correlation, that people are engaging with the stories.
And how we measure that.
And how that's measured. Even so, I would encourage you to consider, to think that through. Like, are we sure that simply publishing is what we want to be looking at? Or do we actually want to be looking at how and to what extent the community is engaging with what we're publishing? So that's one comment, again, for your consideration, not for your instant reaction. The second about this topic is similar to my comment on improving school climate. I'm not convinced that these goals are aspirational enough. I would love to see something where it's like where our community is, they're raving fans of our district, which they are, right, by and large. Is there a way to have a goal around that is more aspirational, that is more gung-ho, so to speak? But again, that's for your consideration, not for your instant reaction. The last thing I'd like to say, beyond these 4 topical areas, is a recognition of how hard you and your team worked to get to this point. We as a board asked you with fundamentally changing how we look at performance goals. And we did that over the course of the past year. So, you know, it's been a long-term project, and you very willingly engaged with that project and with that initiative, and came such a positive attitude, and very much like, yes, we're going to do this. I would like to just congratulate you and thank you, express my gratitude to you and your team, not only for how you've embraced this, but for this first draft that you've brought here. I think it represents, I know how much work this represents. You know, it's easy to continue business as usual, right? I mean, it's hard work, but it's relatively easy to continue business as usual. To fundamentally change how we're evaluating what's happening, that takes a lot of work. So want to acknowledge that and thank you and your staff for your willingness of engaging in this process with us.
I have just a couple of things real quick. With complete agreement with Gina's sentiment, I did have a question on this particular slide, knowing that some of this is kind of new to all of us, and there's inherently a bit of let's see what works and let's see what doesn't. Is that maybe a stretch or a year or two kind of thing where we go, now we're in a position where we know what causes what level of engagement and tweak it kind of thing. Just because some of yours are multi-year goals
Sure.
as it stands.
But again, we didn't want all multi-year goals. We wanted some
Yeah.
that were going to be time-bound to this year.
Sure.
So I think that's why you saw a range of them. They're not all aspirational. They are some that we're just going to tackle this year to see the impact and see what comes next after that.
And that's fair enough.
Yes.
And then my other one kind of goes, referring back to your very first set, which are some pretty audacious goals for proficiency over several years. And recognize, as Gina said, we recognize that a piece of this is the work that's already gone into saying, let's set that number. But I assume, and would just ask that as you build the infrastructure around those things, that probably comes up in budgeting discussions, that probably comes up in other discussions.
Absolutely.
You help us by connecting back to these specific areas. Say, remember, I'm trying to do this. This is what I need to get there.
Yeah, thank you. That is good.
I think all of mine got hit while we were going through. No, I'm just checking. I think all of the comments that I wanted to.
Go ahead, take your time.
Please come back in 2 weeks.
They do.
The 20.
Well, it's a Thursday. Our next meeting is a
It's
Thursday.
actually on a Thursday, yeah.
I do want to acknowledge the work of not just the district staff, but all of the principals, and going back to their schools to work with their teams on this.
Right.
Because it has been, I mean, we started this process at our June retreat, and we have continued to do it at each of our meetings. So it has been a full process with everybody involved.
And embraced gladly, right?
Of course, of course. School improvement is hard work.
It is.
It's worthy work. And we're ready to do it.
And it's very data-driven,
It's very data-driven.
which is excellent. Measurable, data-driven. Thank you. So this will be back in 2 weeks. Maybe 4.
We'll see.
We'll see what happens.
But in the meantime, I know you're working on all of this stuff anyway.
And I think that's important to, this is a very small piece
Yes.
of our day to work, of our day-to-day work. No, achievement is not. That's a huge piece of our day-to-day work. But again, some of these other goals, there are lots of other things that we are working on in conjunction with these goals.
But honestly, they would all, in some fashion, tie into any, at least one of these areas.
Correct.
I mean, we don't do anything because we're just out there doing it.
No.
We do it because it does tie into the things that are important to us.
This is just articulated in a
Yes.
much more succinct way and measurable and targeted.
And objective.
Objective.
Yeah, we want to be able to measure.
All right. We're moving on to item 5.5, which is approval of resolution in support of Legendary Teacher Day, which is September 25th, 2025. This comes up every year.
Does right around this time.
Around this time, we've already seen some posts about it.
Dr. Nick Clement actually had his.
Yes, his
He wrote
op-ed.
about it in his op-ed about
Today-
his
Today or
legendary
yesterday.
teacher.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I read that. That was
Yeah.
great. Okay.
So the Legendary Teacher Day is in its 12th year. I mean, if we can believe that, it's
Yeah, it
12
doesn't
years.
seem like it, but
Yeah, and it's held on September 25th. We've supported this program for the last 11 years. So attached is the resolution for your consideration. The program's designed to recognize that one teacher in our lives who made a significant difference. Teacher honorees can include current and retired teachers, which is nice. And the 3 tenets of the Legendary Teacher are building relationships, engaging deeply with students, and creating high expectations. If you remember last year, our teacher was Mr. Winshadler from
Oh,
Orange
yeah.
Grove.
because one is chosen from every district, correct?
Yes, so he was chosen as our Legendary Teacher last year. So we've already begun to promote the program, so we hope that you're going to.
Right. Because this is on for an action item in the sense that
It is an action
if
item.
we agree, then we adopt the resolution, which would require a board member reading the resolution. assuming we all agree to its content.
You to read it if you wish.
Does anyone have any questions, comments, changes before it's read? Do we,
We could read it first and then
Read
we
it
may have
first.
comments and
Yeah, good
questions
idea.
and changes.
Go right ahead.
Do you want me to read it now? Okay. The Governing Board resolution in support of Legendary Teacher Day, which as we've already established is Thursday, September 25th, 2025. Whereas the Governing Board of the Catalina Foothills School District believes we have all had special teachers who made a significant difference in our lives. And whereas the Catalina Foothills School District Governing Board recognizes that those teachers demonstrated unique skills, allowing them to transform their deep content knowledge into life-changing student learning. And whereas the Catalina Foothills School District Governing Board highly values the caring family culture created by these teachers, and whereas the Catalina Foothills School District Governing Board understands that we often do not fully understand and recognize the profound influence teachers have on our future until we have lived our future. And whereas the Catalina Foothills School District Governing Board realizes the importance of taking time to fully recognize the legendary teachers in our lives. Therefore, be it resolved that the Catalina Foothills School District Governing Board does hereby affirm its support for September 25th, 2025 as Legendary Teacher Day. We encourage our entire community to take time on this day and contact the legendary teacher in your life and express your gratitude for the difference they made in your life. And I won't read I don't think you want me to read that's all you wanted me to read right now, right?
Yeah, and I would ask for a vote to adopt the resolution if we're to that point.
I think it's quite beautifully written
It
and
is.
very
It
apt.
is. Would you like me to read the motion then, Madam President? There is. I move that the Governing Board support the Legendary Teacher Day program by approving the attached resolution, as just read, as presented.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to approve the resolution in support of Legendary Teacher Day. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. I hope lots of teachers are contacted on that day. Does everyone have someone in mind? I do. Okay?
Whole list.
Yeah. Fantastic. Okay. Moving on to our discussion and reports, we just have a couple of items, two of which relate to the Arizona School Boards Association Law Conference that was just held and attended by our board members Eileen Jackson, Jacqueline DeVoli, and Tom Logue. I think Dr. Bartlett was there, Ms. Westover was there.
Cheryl was there.
Ms. Castro was there as well. So I was sorry to miss it, and I'm looking forward to your report.
You're going.
Okay, apparently I am. All right, so I made a few notes based on the breakout sessions primarily. I know we had a keynote that covered security. We had another keynote that covered just kind of some higher profile law cases that were very interesting and informative. But getting into the details of the specific presentations, I would say, big picture, a lot of the perspectives represented by our speakers and the discussions that we heard really aligned with and reinforced our district's current practices. There weren't any areas that I walked out thinking, wow, we really need to be on top of this and are not. And I think as I go through, I'll just kind of hit the high notes of the sessions I attended. You'll see a lot of parallels to what we've already heard, but there was a session on navigating misinformation that really reinforced the need to have a primary source or platform for district communications that everyone gets pointed to and that gets used to communicate regularly to the community.
You like Parent Square?
Like that one, yes,
Oh,
very
okay.
good. You got there.
Okay.
You got there fast.
Yeah, sorry.
Not just in response to negatives, but that is a regular source of communication. There was a session I attended on the new wireless communications devices law, and the case studies included featured both high school districts and K-12 unified districts. The audience had a wide variety of districts, urban, suburban, rural. most of them seem to be using the approach we are, bell to bell for K through 8, and then instructional time pay in the high school level. If there were exceptions, they tended to be things like, a rural district might have different technology accessibility issues, for example. But generally, that was the agreed upon approach. There was generally positive feedback both on implementation and on the surprisingly low number of discipline issues associated with it from a lot of the districts that we heard from. But obviously no discussion of the actual impact, because if you want to look at this from a data-driven perspective, you have to wait a year and look at all of the assessments and compare year over year. So not there yet. Had a session on parents' rights with lessons from Mahmoud V. Taylor, which gave a really good background on the case and pointed out that Arizona already has very strong parental rights. If you want to opt out, there are plenty of straightforward ways to do that, as we discussed and approved tonight. The main issue in that case, which has gained a lot of publicity, was the revocation of a previous opt-out for those same books. So they had it, they took it away, and that kind of started that whole thing rolling. The presenter interestingly noted that this is a preliminary injunction against a single school in a state that is not ours, and said you basically at this point can either do nothing at all because it's a preliminary injunction against one school, or you can specifically assess LGBTQ related content, or you can look at a broader expansion of opt-outs that includes religious reasons. So again, based on what we are doing around this table, it aligns with, if anything, the option that goes the furthest toward ensuring those parental rights. The only other one I will mention is one on avoiding missteps in student support and compliance that had 4 case studies that included mandatory reporting to police, CPS, State Department of Education, as well as a layer of Title IX implications that just made me walk out even more appreciating what our administrators have to deal with and how the tiniest incident potentially has so many different implications in different areas of the law. Bravo, y'all. So those are I know I'm up again in a minute to talk delegate report for the political agenda, but I'll have this part first.
So the pre-law conference was focused primarily on school safety, and I was very gratified to see a continual emphasis across speakers and subtopics about the importance of student mental health, staff, and supports for all, and that was noted many times across different presenters, that it's just as important as physical school security. So just a reinforcement that our district is also on the right path by looking for ways that we can optimize student supports, mental health counseling, supports in all aspects of learning. And to piggyback on what Tom said, I did not attend the Mahmoud V. Taylor presentation, but I did look at the slides, and I will agree that it was very eye-opening to see what led to the case. Because you listen to the news and you hear all the hyperbole, but I did not attend, but the slides were very well done. So I highly recommend everyone look at the slides. I attended various sessions, I just have some random notes. Like when it comes to curriculum adoption, parents all do have the right to opt their own children out of curriculum, but a reminder that they do not have the right to opt other people's children out of curriculum, and that was reinforced a couple of times, which I think is important to remember. Parents' rights go both ways. This one I wrote down, I asterisked a reminder to board members to stay in your lane. That while we all have authority, we have that when we're sitting around the table together. We don't have individual authority when we act as a group. And that the only exception might be the president, if the president is speaking on behalf of the board.
She never does.
She never does.
Rarely does.
Rarely does.
Rarely. Speak for yourself, even as president.
That was basically it. Most of the stuff that I had heard before. I just have a quick note here about Dear Colleague letters of all things. Because we actually had a Pima County collaborative about this as well. A reminder that they don't have the force of law or administrative rule, but are an indicator of future laws that we need to be aware of possibly coming our way.
I was actually really impressed with the safety presentations on Wednesday. There were some really dynamic speakers. The keynote speaker in particular was quite dynamic. And though he's a consultant in the area of security for schools, it was not a hard sell. He was there really to talk to school districts about how to enhance security, quite honestly on a shoestring, because that's how we all live. So lots of really practical things, but what I often sit in the audience at these law conferences and feel is a sense of gratitude to our district leadership and to this board, because the vast majority of the best practices that they're touting in these presentations, we are already doing. And in particular, the idea of the safety audit that we underwent 3 years ago, where we did a comprehensive safety audit of all of our places and used that as a roadmap for us to allocate the limited resources that we do have. And we have allocated those resources in ways that make sense for our place, for our students, for our school district. Not the least of which is our investment recently in Centegic, which was the subject of an was it on NPR? It couldn't have been NPR. But it was, as I was driving home from work, I don't remember what I was listening to, but they were talking about Centegics. It's in the news right now. There was an incident at one of the TUSD middle schools where they were able to use the system. So they were interviewing teachers at TUSD. They interviewed Sheriff Nanos, who is 100% behind that technology that we've installed in our schools. And it was just nice, again, to see CFSD on the forefront of some of these new things. Excellent presentation on the recent win in Superior Court for the Schools Facilities Board issues. Danny Edelman of, what's the name of his organization? I know you know.
Arizona Center for Law and the Public Interest.
Law and the Public Interest prevailed in the lawsuit that currently the School Facilities Board is not being funded appropriately according to previous Arizona Supreme Court decisions in terms of how to fund capital expenditures in the school districts. Again, it's only a Superior Court win, but it was great to hear Danny go through the procedure. I'm actually in the process of reading this 115-page decision. It's really very, very interesting to read it. And hopefully something positive for schools will come out of this. I do know that it is on the appeal track, I'm sure, already, but it was great to have that win and that validation in the Superior Court, at least at the Superior Court level. There were great presentations on all of the Arizona state laws that changed in the last session, great presentations on the stuff that happened at the federal level. Went to a couple of breakout sessions, one on injunctions and how those affect us in the school districts. It's a very complicated situation, but he gave us a great framework in terms of how to think about how those affect school districts and whether we need to act upon those. Same thing on executive orders and their effect specifically on the immigration issues that are happening inside our schools now, and what our students' rights are, what our families' rights are, the importance of training for our frontline personnel, our office personnel, our teachers on protecting those students' and parents' rights. So really some great stuff on the law. I just wish they would give them more time to speak. But I will echo Jacqueline's comments about the slides. They break every rule about too many words on a PowerPoint slide, but boy, they're full of information, and it's almost like you could have almost been there by reading through these slides. So I recommend, if you don't have them, Amy, we need to get them to you. I've got them downloaded on a different machine, couldn't download them here, but I'll get them to you because they're excellent. It was a great conference. It was really a great conference.
I think the best speaker was the First Amendment attorney.
The attorney for the First Amendment.
Yes,
Very
I
good.
could
The
have
guy
listened
from
to a
Texas?
whole day of
No.
him doing
It wasn't that
presentation.
guy who.
No.
I don't remember where he was from. That was the second day, right? Thursday?
The
Yeah,
second
Thursday.
day, yes.
It was all
You
on.
see who that
That
was?
was valuable, you'd say?
Oh, yeah.
Very much so.
Bill Creeley.
Yeah.
Very
Bill Creeley,
full of
and I don't remember where he was from. It's on his slides, but yeah, it was great.
Actually,
It really was.
Wasn't he local? Was he the, no,
Was
that
he
was the.
local? I'm not sure he was
That was
local.
the
Friday.
Friday person.
Yeah, I'm not sure he was local, so.
One,
Anyway.
one of the sessions that I went, that I'll just
Please.
reiterate too, that I went to the session for avoiding oversight pitfalls, lessons from the Auditor General.
Oh, I was in that one too, but I was bothered by phone
And it
calls.
just
Did you tell the
reinforced
Auditor
again-
General what, how to avoid
It just
pitfalls?
reinforced again the strong processes that we have, because they were talking about,
Absolutely.
implementing strong internal controls, which we have, developing and adhering to clear policies and procedures for all financial transactions from procurement to payroll, which we have, ensuring timely and accurate financial reporting and reconciliation, which is what we're having difficulty with from the county treasurer
Yeah.
right now, but we're on top of that, and then promoting that culture of transparency by making financial information clear and accessible to the public, which we do. So it just, again, reiterated, a dry session, but very informative.
He actually, I mean, I kind of like this stuff. He actually presented it as well as anybody could present that
Yes.
subject matter. I think he did a good job.
Yes, it was a dry session, but it was,
Yeah.
he did a very good job. So that was just,
Plenty.
I thought that was a really good session that we attended, but I would echo the sentiments about the safety.
Mhm.
It kind of went a good one, and then ADE would speak.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we'd have another good
come
one,
back
and then
on, yes, yeah.
ADE would speak.
They're not professional presenters, so you
Correct.
gotta give them that. But it was
Correct.
interesting, ADE spent a lot of time talking about the grant funds that are available for security and safety issues for our students. Unfortunately, they're grant funds and they're all expended at this point, and it's a long process to go through the grant process, and it's something that you have to learn. And, and I was gonna mention with this whole issue of the school facilities board thing. So tonight, $1.8 million came out of that grant fund for us. And that grant fund this year and last year was funded at about $200 million at the state level. But prior to that, it's been about $16 million a year. They had an influx of money that they threw into that state facilities grant fund for last year. I have a feeling not a lot of it got spent, and so they threw it again in this year. But I don't know that we'll be able to count on that being $200 million year after year. So again, $1.8 million this week. A couple weeks ago, we were over $1 million as well. Huge accomplishment, huge accomplishment. If the money's limited.
Making one more observation, connecting back to the security presentation, because yes, as you pointed out, he was big on not just the physical hardening of a campus, but behavioral assessments, investments in social emotional learning, counseling, things like that. This was not a hug it out kind of presenter. He actually is a retired U.S. Secret Service agent who does this type of threat assessments at schools. So just to provide a little context for his emphasis on behavioral.
And he has been a responder at some of the more disturbing incidents that we hear about in the news. So this is something that he lives and breathes, and
My
just
favorite was his example of the drones from the ceiling.
of how not to invest your
There is a
money.
company that has created drones that are in your ceiling, and in an emergency that'll come down, and he
Supposedly get the shooter.
he was
They
making
drop from the
he was
ceiling and
making
supposedly
he was
get the
he was
shooter. Oh, no.
saying if someone's trying to sell you those, please do not.
Don't buy them.
Yes, please don't.
Andy, anything to add? You don't have to.
I feel like everything was very covered well. A lot of the sessions were the ones that the rest of the board have already highlighted.
Thank you all for taking your time to attend, because I know it's beneficial personally. You also bring all that knowledge back to us. We all learn from it. You implement what you learn, sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously. So we appreciate the investment of your time in improving governance.
I was glad to go.
Good. Thank you, thank you. Mr. Lowe, thank you for attending the delegate assembly.
Absolutely.
How was it?
I learned another way to not run a meeting.
What do you mean, another way?
I've been
You're not referring to this meeting, are you?
I would never to your face So without getting into too much detail, essentially there were some bumps in the road with the technology because everyone was virtually voting even if they were in the room. That led to some impatience, which then caused someone to storm up and ask for us to just be able to vote on the entire slate of changes all at once rather than one by one.
Oh, interesting.
Which was then approved.
No
But
kidding.
then virtually every single item that was supposed to be changed had someone offer an amendment. So you got back around to where we were, just with a little extra time, a little stroll around the block. The big changes that were made, and y'all had access to the agenda beforehand. Some of the removals that were made were done with the purpose of streamlining and eliminating redundancy. And there were a few comments in that area. There were a couple of spots where they were just looking at the funding piece and anchoring increased funding requests to cost studies or other kind of concrete metrics like cost of living, things like that. They removed a line item around supporting policy that encourages eligible voters to participate in elections, not because they think elections are a bad thing, but because it was deemed outside of the purview of school boards.
Right.
So not really something that the school board should be pursuing. They added a request to increase public school tax credit donation limits to match those of private schools, because private school donation credits are
3 times as much.
One person then came up and spoke out against that out of principle because that's not how we should be funding our schools.
Don't disagree.
And most everyone else came up and said, but as long as it is, we should at least have parity in how it's done.
Agreed.
So that one
It's not
passed.
going anywhere, so.
Then a couple of things that were rejected. There was one line item that was struck entirely in the proposed agenda, which was to ask state, federal, tribal, and local officials to address the causes and impact of increased gun violence directed at K through 12 schools. The reason that was struck initially was because it was deemed redundant with the line above it, which is to address the causes and impact of increased self-harm and violence in our school communities. However, there was pushback on removing this issue because gun violence was seen by most representatives there as something unique in terms of its causes and access, that it made sense to have that be a standalone item. So it was restored based on majority vote back into the agenda to have that as a standalone. I just saved you all about 2.5 hours.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Is that as long as it lasted?
Which is pretty short.
That's
I've
not
been there
bad,
for 4
actually.
hours in the.
I know, I'll have my turn there too.
Yeah.
Thank you for representing us.
Thank you.
It was my pleasure.
We
I'm sure you
appreciate
enjoyed it. I always,
Actually did.
to be honest, I always enjoy it. There are times when I wish somebody would get the
Move on.
hook
Yeah.
and pull somebody off the stage, but for the most part, it's a really engaging process and it's quite interesting. And that's, if I was ever going to do an ASBA committee, which at this point in my career as a board member, I'm probably not going to, that would be the one committee that, I find really interesting.
Well, that was the one area that I'm going to write them and suggest. What they should have done and didn't do was for each item added or removed, have comments from the Legislative Review Committee to indicate the rationale
Yeah.
of adding or removing. And they didn't have that, so then they had to huddle around each one.
Oh.
We do this.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
that cushioned the time a little too.
Gotcha.
All's well that ends.
Thank you again. Discussion and report, item 6.3 is our standing item to discuss any Arizona legislative or governmental activity. We covered a lot in policy tonight. Covered a lot.
I don't know that I have anything to add this evening.
For the lawsuit. Okay. If no one has anything else to discuss on that, agenda planning tomorrow is me and Gina. We'll be remote at 10 o'clock. And I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move.
Second?
I'll second.
There's been a motion and a second. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We're adjourned.
And
And again, a reminder, our next meeting is
Because you're sad.
Thursday.
You guys are champs.
You